1, 7 and 1, 8 is called properties of exponents. Yep. There are, we're doing part of 1, 7 and part of 1, 8, so we're not doing the whole section of either one if you would go to the book. But there are 6 properties that we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to describe all 6, and then we're going to do examples of those. So the first one is a to the n. If I were to say a squared, that would mean a times a, 2 times. So this n represents how many a's we have. So I'm just going to go a times a dot 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 times a, and this would be n times. So a to the nth means a times a all the way up to how many times n is, whatever number n is. Two is b to the negative n. This says if you have a base to a negative exponent, what happens is it takes and puts it to the bottom or to the top. It makes a reciprocal of your base. So negative exponents means that you flip the base, or take the reciprocal, however you want to call it. Means if it was on the top, it goes to the bottom. If it was on the bottom, it goes to the top. So you just basically go from top to bottom, bottom to top. Three says if you have a to the m times a to the n, where a, the bases are the same, you simply add the exponents, a to the m plus n. So hopefully that makes sense. If you had x and then you had x squared, how many x's do you have? If you had x, I can go over here. If you had x and you had x squared, how many x's do you have? X to the third, because you simply just added those exponents, and that's what they're saying. Since this is if there's nothing there, it's always a 1. So 1 and 2 makes 3. The fourth property says a to the m divided by a to the n. When we multiplied, we added our exponents. When we divide, what do you think we might do to our exponents? Subtract them is right. So this one would be a to the m minus n. Which hopefully also makes sense, because if you had y to the 3 over y2, that means you have 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. How many y's are left? 1. And where is that 1? On the top is right. Because we simply subtracted them. The fifth property says a to the m raised to the n. So it's a is raised to m, and then the whole thing is raised to the n. What we do here is we multiply those right there. So our answer will be a to the mn. And our last property that we're going to talk about is a to the m, b to the n, raised to the p. All right, so what does that tell me? That tells me that the bases, see, these bases are different. So this p has to go to this one, and it has to go to there. So what did we have to do when we have m raised to the p? What did we do here? We times it. So after we distribute, that means we're multiplying. So the answer will be a m p b n p. Meaning whatever's there, we're going to multiply them together. Now, if you do not understand all these properties yet, it's okay, because this is all abstract right now, but we're going to do some examples right now. Examples, actually. The first two examples I'm going to put up, and then I want you to try to talk with your shoulder partner and see what you think the answer is. The first one is -6, the quantity squared. And the second one is -6 squared. So I want you to talk to your shoulder partner, see what you think the answers are, and what you think the answers are. All right, class, what do you think number one is? All right, so we have here, what does this 2 means that this is how many times? 2 times, right? So that means it's -6 times -6. Because since it's parentheses, that means the whole thing is twice. So negative and a negative is a positive, and then 6 times 6 is 36. Now, this one, though, is only, it says negative and then 6 squared. So that means it's negative, but there's 2 6's. So it's -6 times 6. Because there's only 2 6's, not 2 negatives there. So if you want to, you can think about it being like that, because that's what it really is. So we have here a -36. All right, try this one. 3 is 7 times 2x quantity squared. So 7 on the outside, parenthesis, 2x squared. So kind of do it like what I did on number 2. So write out the 7 and then how many 2x's you have, and then see if you get an answer. All right. So Megan, walk the class through how to get the answer you are right with. So what do they want? What do you want them to do? So it's 7 times. No, Megan. Do you know how to do it? Okay, yep. Times 2x times. So times another 2x because there are 2 of them. So then you take and go 7 times 2 times 2 gives me my 28. And then x times x gives me my x squared. The fourth one we have is negative 2 to the negative 3. The first thing is, what does this negative do? What does that negative do? It puts it to the... It does put it to the positive, but where does this negative... It goes from the top to the bottom. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go 1 over negative 2 raised to the 3. Alright? Because that negative, all it did was take and move this negative 2 to the bottom. Alright? That's all this negative does, is it takes it from the bottom to the top or top to the bottom. So that's why it's the bottom. Now you have to ask yourself, class, what is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2? Because remember that this bottom is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So a negative, negative, and a negative, is that a positive or a negative? Negative. And what is 2 times 2 times 2? 8. Alright, now I want you guys to try this one. X squared over y to the negative 2. And Rebecca, what do you think the answer is? Alright, so is this x squared on the top or bottom? Top. And it stays on the top because that's not negative. So that's going to be on the top. Now this negative is here. What does this negative do? It takes this and takes it from the bottom and takes it to the top. So all you have to do is this just goes to the top and becomes y squared. So it just takes it from the bottom and puts it to the top. Negative goes to the opposite. So if it's on the bottom, it goes to the top. If it's on the top, it goes to the bottom. Yes?
Is there, if I did x squared divided by 1 over y squared?
Well, you can do, you can do x squared divided by, but the 1 would be here, and then this y squared has to go to the top because this negative takes it to the top. You could have a 1 on the bottom, but this and this is the same, but this negative tells me it has to go to the opposite. So because it's negative, this is on the bottom, so it has to go to the top to simplify. So that's what that does. Does that? Okay. All right. Question then 5. All right. Try this one. Now, the first thing I want you to do when you're doing this is figure out what is on the top or what stays on the top and what goes to the bottom. Whoops, just a second, sorry. Try that one over again. Copying my notes wrong. So it's 6. We have 8, then we have x to the 4th, y to the negative 2, in parentheses, all multiplied to negative 3, x to the negative 3, y. So the first thing is, think about what stays on the top and what goes on the bottom. So that's the first step. All I want you to do is to figure out what goes on the top and what goes on the bottom. So remember, if it's positive, it stays on the top. If it's negative, it's going to go to the bottom. So especially since they're all on the top right now. And if you need to, ask your shoulder partner for help at this time. You sure can. All right. Just tell me top or bottom. Does the 8, is it top or bottom? Top. X to the 4th. Y to the negative 2. Bottom. What am I going to write on the bottom? Y. Y squared. Very good. Negative 3. Remember, this is where we're looking for the negative exponent. So that's going to stay on the top. X to the negative 3. Bottom. Going x cubed. And then y is top. Now we need to clean it up. We need to clean up our answer. So 8 times negative 3 gives me anybody know? 8 times negative 3? Negative 24. And then I have x to the 4th y over y squared x cubed. Now once you get in the hang of this, you won't have to show all of your work as far as this goes, but for right now I would show everything. Now, do we have anything on the top that we have in the bottom where we can reduce? Yes. Going with our x's, how many x's do we have? Well, we have 4 on the top and 3 on the bottom. So how many x's do we have left? 1. And where is that 1? On the top. Because remember, what you would do is if you need to, you can actually 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. This cancels with these, so you have 1 left on the top. So just so you can see how that works. Now we have y's. We have 1 on the top and we have 2 on the bottom. How many y's do we have left? 1, and where's that y? Which one is more? Is the top have more y's or the bottom have more y's? Bottom. So it's going to stay 1 y on the bottom.
How many example problems?
10. All right, but some of them are really quick, like this one. We have here 3 to the 5th raised to the 7th. Look at your exponent properties and tell me what we have to do with that 5 and 7. We have to multiply them, is right? So we have 5 times 7 is 5 times 7, 35. So we have 3 to the 35th. Now, a lot of times they'll say write it as a base, and that's what they mean. Just leave it as 3 to the 35. If it was a really small number, like if you could get maybe a 3-digit, then you could write it out. But if not, just leave it as a base and an exponent. All right, try this one. X to the negative 5 raised to the 4. Anthony, what'd you get for that? All right, so we have, what do we have to do with these two? Multiply them. So we have x to the negative 20. And then what does this negative make it happen? It goes over 1. So you have 1 over x to the 20th. Very good.
So whenever we have a negative exponent, you want us to simplify it further?
Yes. Yep. You always want it to the simplest form of any of them. We want it always simplified. Yep. But if it's a negative, you want to take it 1, unless it asks you to keep as a negative exponent. Sometimes it does ask you to keep it or to put it as a. All right, number 9 we have is 5x cubed y to the negative 5 z squared, all raised to the negative 4. The first thing you want to do, and I'm going to do this with you, is to distribute this negative 4 to each one of them. And now that I told you that, I'm going to let you finish it. But that negative 4 has to go to each one of them. So then try to see if you can figure out what goes on the top and what goes to the bottom. So you'll be going like 5 to the negative 4, x to the negative 12, and so forth. All right, Helene, we have here, what do I have to do to the negative 5 and the negative 4? What do we do to these two? So what you do is you multiply, so we have negative 5 times negative 4 gives me y to the 20, very good. And then z, we have 2 times negative 4 gives me a negative 8. Very good. Once you're at this point, if it said to leave it as negatives, you could, but most times it says simplify, so we want to go one more step. All of the negatives go to the bottom. So we're going to start, top is y to the 20th, and then we have 5 to the 4th. 5 to the 4th, did anybody put it in their calculator? Is 625. Now, on a quiz, if you had 5 to the 4th, I will try to tell you, make sure you simplify it even more, but I probably wouldn't mark it wrong if you put 5 to the 4th, because sometimes we leave it, sometimes we don't. But if it's 3 digits, I would definitely write it out. So 5 to the 4th, and on the bottom also we have x to the 12th and z to the 8th. All right, last example we have is x squared over y to the negative 3, all raised to the negative 5. Alright. Lincoln, walk me through it. What are we going to do?
Multiply the 2 and the negative 5 today.
Alright, so we get x to the
Negative 10.
Very good. And then on the bottom we have y
To the 15th.
15th. Very good. And because this is negative, what do we have to do?
Flip it.
We have to take it to the bottoms, or flip it is what you, and then the bottom then would become
XY to the 25th.
so x to the 10th,
Oh, yeah,
and then y to the 15th. Because they're different bases, we're not going to add those. Yep. All right. Really quickly, let's see if you guys remember your order of operations. I will write it down, but we have order of operations. So, what is my first thing that we have to always do? Parentheses. So you do the parentheses, the innermost. So if there's an innermost parenthesis and then you work out, that's what you do first. What do you do second? Exponents is right. What do we do third? Multiply or divide. And you have to go from left to right. And then the last we do add or subtract. And we do it also from left to right. All right, let's see who can get the answer. This is my example. Let's see who can shout out the answer the quickest as I pass this out. The problem is 2 parenthesis 8 minus 13 plus 2 end of parenthesis squared divided by 6 plus 2 all squared. See who can get the answer first.
So the whole thing is in parentheses.
Yep, this outer is all squared. Like the whole thing is squared. Once you get a number, then you square that.
So for the brackets outside of those parentheses.
Parentheses, yep. Yeah, if you have a big calculator, you can put parentheses around it, yep.
Oh, homework?
Yep.
Supposed to do tomorrow?
Yep.
Is it 25?
It is not 25. Is it 35? No, it's not 30. No, it's not 5. Not 25. I won't do it out all the way, but I will start helping. And then still, if you figure it out before I get to the answer, make sure you yell it out. And what you're winning is a raffle ticket, goes into the drawing for possible winning a prize at the end of the month. And I'm going to draw a few of them at the end. It is not -4. So the first thing you want to do is this part right there. And 8 minus 13 plus 2 gives me a -3. And then we have that, oh man, guys. I don't even know what the answer is now. I actually wrote the problem down wrong, so someone might have been right. So if you guys got the right answer, I'll give you guys, and it might be then, but you have to be honest. So that was supposed to be a cubed. But anyways, this is squared, so this would have been a 9, and times 2. -3 times -3 would be your 9. And then we have here divided by our 6 plus 2 all squared. You actually might have been, Nick might have been right because I didn't see I squared that. Alright, so we have here divided by 6 plus 2 and we square it. So 2 times 9 is 18 divided by 6 plus 2 and we square that. So we have 3 plus 2 is 5, and we're squaring it as 25. So it is 25. So if you did say 25, raise your hand. So some of you might have already said that. So since it was my mistake, all of you will get one for that if you said the 25.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
You got it right.
What I would do with these is I would,
What are you guys gonna win?
what I would do is I
What's
would
the drawing
tape it.
for?
What I would do is I tape it to your folders. You do already have your homework, so you can start that. I'll walk around too and help you guys out. Make sure you have your name on your homework. If you have not yet done so, please put your name on your homework. I know. Actually, I'm going to give you 2 because it was my mistake. You were the first one. So I'm going to give you 2. I'm doing it per thing, and then what I'll do is I'm going to put the numbers on it, and then you guys can come in and look at it. So.